All right, let's see, vocation story.
Countdown.
Sure.
3, 2.
And I am more vocation story.
Start over.
Yeah, I'll think about it. Because you can do all sorts of editing.
I can chop it.
Chop it out. So there's no like red light on this side, you know?
What you're recording now.
That's good. I'll sing a song. My name is Father Avram Brown of the Diocese of Sacramento. Ordained in 2004 and serving now at St. Vincent Ferrer Parish here in Vallejo. It's really where I guess you could say my vocation story kicks off is our family's discovery of the Catholic faith. And Mom and Dad had been really active in our different churches. One of the things that they had taught us kids, me and my two brothers, is just the presence of God in our lives and how He does have sort of a plan or a call for each person. So anyways, Mom and Dad, when I was 9 years old, sort of living that belief out themselves, recognized a call to do missionary work in China, going to spend a year in South Central China with the alias, the cover, in a communist country of being an English teacher. Dad went in to teach English, and so of course we got permission to come into the country. And then at a sort of more personal level, you would then be able to share with your students sort of one-on-one about your Christian faith. And so that way you weren't public out in the open, which would have been a problem with the socialist government there. But still have that ability to reach out and connect with the students at the university. And of course that's where God has different plans for us than we do, because it was one of Dad's students at the university who took us to his church, to his Sunday celebration. And there in South Central China, we went to what turned out to be a Catholic liturgy, and just a powerful, powerful experience. It somehow tugged on our hearts, and for Mom and Dad it really did create a sense of there being something there that they were looking for. And in fact, we were able to meet with the priest there after the liturgy, and he was relatively old at that point. He had spent decades, literally decades, in prison in China for his faith. I don't remember this myself, but Mom remembers that as we were sitting speaking with him after the liturgy, he looked over at me, you know, a little 10-year-old Protestant kid, and he looked over and he said, you know, someday he'll grow up to be a Catholic priest. And that's really something, you know, that he would have that recognition, that he'd see that. And, you know, Mom sort of held on to that, remembered it. And so when we came back to the States, so we thought, well, we'll just try out our local Catholic church. And this was up in the mountains. This was in a tiny little mountain town in our diocese, Westwood. So the Sunday Mass community at Our Lady of the Snows would have been about 20 people, very tiny congregation. And so we decided we'd slip into the back pew and just sort of check out what was going on. We didn't know, of course, that for Catholics, really the back pew is the most important. It's the one that everybody gets there early to snag. And so, of course, we were probably taking somebody's seat. And with a congregation that small, when you show up as family with kids, you're definitely noticed right away. But anyways, the pastor started meeting with us. It was such a small parish, it didn't even really have an RCIA program, but Father Patrick Lee, one of our priests here in the Diocese of Sacramento, started meeting with us on Wednesday nights and sharing with us about the faith, about the history of the church, what Catholics believe, who the saints are, all that sort of thing. And it really just came home for us. It really was, it resonated with us. And so we came into the church as a family when I was 11 years old. And that's when I was, you know, first sort of introduced to, you know, the life of the parish, the role of the priest, seeing Father Lee and his work in bringing us into the church, his ministry to families, to the community, was really sort of, that first example of what a parish priest does, what a parish priest looks like. And of course, another thing that, was sort of first time at that point, 11, 12 years old, was starting to learn about the lives of the saints. I had already had that desire to be close to Christ, to be, close friends with Jesus. And now discovering in the church that, in a sense, the identity of a Catholic priest is to be working with Christ, to be united with Christ, to be spending your day, spending your time with Jesus. That just resonated with the experience that I had had growing up. And going off to finishing out grade school, coming into high school, and going off to the university, I definitely had a sense of wanting to go into the priesthood, but I didn't know yet with which community, with which order. And so I spent my 4 years of undergrad, my 4 years of college, visiting and getting to know different religious orders, different communities, to find out, what the Dominicans, what the Trappists, what the Franciscans do, what's their story, what's their charism. And during those 4 years, one thing kept coming back. As a kid, growing up in our diocese, I had just had an awareness, a sense of my own classmates, my own friends, my own peers, kids my age, and just what was missing. It felt like there was something missing in their lives, just a sense of, direction or a purpose. And so wanting to be able to help reach out to my classmates, to young people. And so growing up, that sort of stuck with me. And so in college, what kept coming back was the sense that, Northern California, our region, Diocese of Sacramento, was a place for service and a place for ministry. And so there was sort of, I guess you could say, a call home, a call to come back and serve here in this region. In completing philosophy, was able to take a year with my brother and go do missionary work in Guatemala, spending a year working with the Mayan Indians, the sadly very poor population, but at the same time a very rich population in terms of the faith. And for us, as still relatively young Catholics, having been in the church for just a few years, being able to see this historic faith of a culture that had really integrated the presence of God, the presence of Christ into their family lives, into their community lives. That was a very, very rich experience. And in drawing from that year of missionary service, I was ready to come back to the diocese and apply. And so I was ordained in 2004. Beautiful day. It was the feast day of St. Maximilian Kolbe, and then spent 3 years at Our Lady of Mercy Parish in Reading. Very, very dynamic and lively setting there, working at Bishop Quinn High School, helping out as a chaplain, doing a little bit of teaching, getting on the other side of the school desk there. And then in these last 3 years, Bishop Wiegand sent me to do biblical studies out in Rome at the Gregorian University. And so now in coming back here to St. Vincent's, I'm very excited to be able to be back on the ground again in the parish and serving in the diocese.
Very good. And could you just explain one last thing? Why do you have two different socks on?
I just moved in, and my luggage is like all stacked up in my room, and black socks and black socks are close enough that even though there's like stripy black and there's like solid black, when you don't know where all your stuff is, you just sort of go with it. So, I think, yeah, maybe I'll get like a sock organizer now that I'm moved in, like where all the stripy socks and black socks. We'll see.